Today was always going to be a lighter day because I'm going into a night shift, so I don't really have the capacity to recover from anything kind of difficult. So I kind of wanted to come in and just touch some sort of heavy weight today. Didn't really know what I was going to do. Ended up doing 200 again. I wasn't expecting that. For some reason, like on days where I have night shift, I wake up and my body's kind of tired. It's almost expecting the night shift coming on, and my body's almost kind of telling me, all right, take it easy today and just sleep. So that's kind of how I felt today going into the session. The moment we walked in, we realized there was no squat rack, so I thought, okay, let me just warm up. I don't want to waste time. Let me just warm up to squat and then quickly squat and get out of here. So I jumped on the bar, started doing some leg raises, ended up doing freaking 7 sets. I was still waiting for the squat rack. So one after another. I ended up doing 7, which is probably too much. For me, man, like the hardest thing is staying away from work, man. I feel like I always want to work hard. I don't know. So I didn't want to work hard today. I ended up working moderately hard. Ended up doing 70 freaking sets, 70 reps of the leg raises, which are feeling fantastic. Like the last few days, I've been talking about what the best kind of exercise to match up with the squat is. And I feel like the leg raises, I feel like I found something here, honestly. It feels unbelievable to do leg raises and then move over to squats. It just feels like the core is activated, everything feels solid, and when your core and your whole pelvic region is kind of controlled and balanced, you just feel like really strong. You feel really explosive. You feel like you can rely on that core. You feel like there's very little leaking power through that kind of lumbar spine area, abdominal kind of area, which is kind of where the leaks happen really. And it kind of got me thinking to myself, like, what if I put in the same amount of attention that I give the squat? What if I do the same thing for the leg raises? What if I become like a master of leg raises, whatever that means? I may have seen gymnasts do incredible things. Like I'm doing these semi-controlled, like you could say there's a lot of momentum at the bottom. I've seen people do this exercise with like slow, just all the way up, touch the bar at the top, which is like a perfect V. Number one, I don't have the flexibility to do that, so my hamstrings wouldn't allow me to get to that level. But imagine that, like start from the bottom and slowly all the way to the top, touch the bar slowly and control the way down. Like I've seen, in the Olympics on the crosses, people like have incredible hip flexor strength. Like one thing it is to kind of like kick a ball or to kind of, use momentum or accelerate like a sprinter through some sort of hip flexion, hip extension kind of movement. But it's another skill to be able to control that muscle or have the strength to control it all the way to the top and then hold it. Like, you know what I mean? Hold that big contraction at the top and then slowly lower it down. Like it's absolutely phenomenal. When I see that, I'm like, wow, man, like that is like a grand master of core strength. And that automatically gets me into the whole, into the mindset of, okay, what's the best exercise for core? Obviously, specificity is king. The guy that's kind of hanging off those rings, he needs static strength. He needs to be able to hold positions. Whereas the sprinter is all about explosion up, explosion down. Like it's all about kind of velocity and kinetic kind of motion, movement. Whereas, the guy on the rings is all about holding positions, being able to show to the judges that I've got perfect 90-degree angles or whatever the angles are. I don't want to act like an expert when it comes to that sport, but it's just incredible what sort of strength they have. It helps that they don't have big legs. Like, I don't know, some of you guys, have you ever seen those, I don't know what they're called. I think it's Olympic rings. I'm trying to think of the name of the actual sport, where they do kind of the cross and whatnot. Like those dudes have some of the most incredibly developed upper bodies, man. Like the biceps on these dudes is just insane how big their arms are. But when you look at their legs, they look like these freaking appendages, like just skin, kind of leftover skin. They have no legs. And so it's probably easier for them to kind of lift those skinny legs all the way to the top. So maybe for me, I need a lot more strength to lift my, big ass up into the air. But regardless, I think whatever leg size you have, if you develop that strength to do it all the way to the top, man, you have my respect, because that is this is the thing about me. Like I see different disciplines and I would take bits and pieces from every discipline. When I see those dudes upper body and the fact that they can hold themselves in that cross and the biceps and how long they can hold themselves in some of these positions. Man, I respect that. And especially, like I already mentioned, the core strength of some of these exercises. It's like, man, it's one thing to kind of, like I said, flick yourself up to the bar, saying a muscle up. But it's a completely different thing to like slowly, like millimeter by millimeter, like slow motion, do a muscle up. Like that is incredible strength. Now I know the tendon strength and all that kind of is big on this. People usually say, static holds are great for tendons. Man, what can you say about people that do this sort of stuff, man? Like on the cross, holding that V sit, whatever the hell it's called, when you're doing the leg raise. It's just insane. Like I just wonder to myself if I dedicated, similar energy. Now that I've kind of identified that the squat has a really good relationship with this hanging leg raise, it's like a perfect union almost. One feeds off the other, in a way. Definitely the hanging leg raises help the squat. I don't know if the squat would help the hanging leg raise, but if I find that, something is helping the squat, like 1-to-1 ratio, like, man, I just want to do it all the time. And I just wonder how long it would take me to kind of develop, number one, that flexibility, I guess. And the second thing is the strength to be able to slowly leg raise all the way, touch the bar and have the control and not swing left and right and all that back and forth and all the way down. Like that is just, like I can't even imagine my hip flexors being that strong to be able to control that movement. Unbelievable. Back in the day when I first started training, I was really kind of excited to do calisthenics. So, the first time I ever started training with any sort of movements, I was playing basketball at the time, but I remember going to the park and I bought these gloves. I went to the park and I started going to the monkey bars and I was doing pull-ups and this way, that way, and then I remember going onto YouTube and searching some of these guys who are doing these incredible, like one-handed pull-ups and all sorts of things. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, what control. So I guess you can take bits and pieces from wherever you look in human movement and sports and performance and take bits and pieces and plug them in. I remember one guy, I can't remember who the guy was, but he was on T-Nation. It was an article on T-Nation, and he was basically trying to kind of explain a program for somebody that wants a 700 or 800 pound deadlift and is not built to deadlift. What's his recommendation for a person like that? So if you've got really short arms and long legs, you're going to have a really leaned over starting position. And so he went on to explain that the only thing, the best thing you need to do is get strong through the anterior core. And so he was talking about doing weighted decline sit-ups on the decline bench. And then eventually said, if you have the strength, you can do hanging leg raises with weight at the bottom. Basically, you're just trying to strengthen that super leaned over position, that 90-degree hip flexion from both sides. Obviously, you're going to be deadlifting to get good at deadlifts, but also what's the opposite equal of that movement, which is some sort of hip flexion. And I remember he was talking about, putting weight at the end of that. And I remember thinking to myself at that point, like, Jesus Christ, if you can do a hanging leg raise with weights attached to your ankles, what sort of savage do you have to be to do that? But I just wonder what would happen to me if I just took this 100% seriously and I ended up, trying to progress my leg raises some way. Obviously, the first step is to actually do a freaking full one. Just start doing a proper freaking leg raise and not this momentum stuff. And also go all the way up and touch the bar. That's obviously the first step before loading. I'm far away from loading. I don't even have control of my own legs, my own weight of my legs, let alone do weighted stuff. Anyway, but this is the top set of today. I was kind of pretty exhausted with the core work, but anyway, that's all good. He still kind of moved all right, I think. Bit of a pause at the top again. Yeah, quite happy with that. Anyway, as soon as I racked it, I was like, let's get the hell out of here, go home, get some sleep, and go to a night shift. And that's exactly what I'm about to do. I'm recording this voiceover. I'm going to upload this thing, and I'll be in la la land in terms of sleep. Try and get at least 1 or 2 hours, and then head into a 12-hour night shift. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys on the other side of that. Hopefully tomorrow's session is similar to this, but hopefully it's even better. All right, guys, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.